Once you look at it like an investment, then it all of a sudden becomes a moneymaker. And you look at the house differently. When rates are not as low as they're going to go and there's availability, that's the time to buy.
Most pilots don't understand what career opportunities are available in the world of aviation. They're making career decisions based on advice from friends or posts on internet forums, meaning they're taking huge risks with their livelihood without having all the details. This podcast was created to help you understand the aviation industry so you can find your dream job. Let's get ready for Pushback. Here's your host and my dad, Nick Fialka.
Hey, pilot, welcome to Ready for Pushback. I'm Nick Fialka. I'm super stoked you are here today. My guest is a returning guest, is one of my favorite people, Marty Medve. He is the owner of Trident Home Loans, and they are definitely a show sponsor, as well as just a dear friend of mine. He's done all my mortgages and has been a great help. This is a really fun episode. We talk about the economy. We talk about mortgage rates. We talk about what it's like buying a house for a person that's hired by an airline. We're looking into the future, maybe those year 2, year 3 pay people, the captain upgrade. Like everything's a little bit different. We talk about civilian pilots. We talk about military pilots. We talk about conventional mortgages. We talk about VA. We talk about 30-year. We talk about 15-year. Your story is different. Your story is different. Your story is different than mine. And your story is different than the other pilot that's listening to the show on the other side of the headphones. And so the fact that it's unique and important is what makes Trident different, because he's really like the guy that understands what your pay is, because regular mortgage lenders, it's hit or miss. It's mostly a miss, because I've been down that road, and it's frustrating, especially if it's year one pay. Especially if it's year one. Great conversation. We dip into a little bit of like aviation medical stuff at the end too. I think you're really going to enjoy it. So sit back, relax. Let's get ready for Pushback. Hey, pilot, did you just get a new conditional job offer? Are you getting out of the military and going to move your family across the country? Are you going to move in base somewhere, or are you going to go out to find that second home that you've been looking for? Well, I want you to stop right now, pick up the phone, and call Marty and the team at Trident Home Loans. It's an organization that's run by pilots. They understand pilot pay. They understand contracts. They understand military. They have the best VA loans in the United States. Marty and his team have been doing mortgages for years. They've been doing my mortgages for years. I trust him and his team more than any other organization. I challenge you to get a better deal anywhere else. Go ahead, reach out, get a mortgage quote, and then call Marty and his team. They will walk you through the process and show you how competitive their rates are. So go right now, tridenthomeloans.com, and check them out. All right, here we are with my dear friend, Marty Medve, friend of mine, friend of the show, friend of Spitfire, friend of pilots everywhere. Dude, how are you?
I'm doing great. This is probably one of the best time of life right now for us personally, in terms of our growth and how we're treating people and how people are coming along, and connecting to individuals has been never been better.
Yeah, man. So for those of you guys that don't know, Marty is the owner of Trident Home Loans, and he has done all my mortgages throughout the years and has been just a great friend. I've known him forever. And he comes on the show to talk about what's happening in the real estate world, because for me, for a pilot that is pursuing a career in aviation, you have to be flexible, and at some point you're going to end up at the place where you want to be, and you're going to be ready to buy a home, and you need somebody that understands what happens with pilot pay. Can you spend a minute to help the pilot listening understand like how you're different than like some other cat that has a mortgage company in Atlanta or in Denver or whatever?
Sure. So as a captain, or 26 years at an airline, different airlines, starting out Navy pilot career, going to a quick airline for 9 months, getting furloughed, and then going to a major for 26 years. We deal a lot with pilot pay, and I don't think there's anybody that does it better. We understand it, and we tell you, and we know how to get to your income. And we use the guarantees other companies can't. We don't average income. We use the hourly. We have ways to get you qualified even 2 months prior to starting your job. So we understand the guidelines extraordinarily well. So you're not struggling when you're going to buy a house. It's a smooth and easy process, which is way better than anything else stabbing at the dark. And it makes the process so much more comfortable and stress-free. And we like to have you in the house before you start your training, or when you're flying, we like to accommodate you, to help extend your lock or close you when you're, overseas or something like that. So we're very good. Close about 140 pilots a month right now. So we're really kind of booming. And we do loans for civilians and kids and mothers. And I love it when someone says, hey, I'm referring my daughter to you after 20 years. He didn't have a kid when I started. And now I'm doing a loan for his daughter, and I'm trying to help her buy a house for the first time. And he trusts me. That's what I value the most, Nick.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I probably, every fourth person I fly with, I probably give your cell phone number out. But I want to circle back to what you said. And this is, so here's my experience for a person that's listening, the pilot that hasn't done this yet. One of the things that happens when you get your job, especially at a major or regional, like your year one pay is low. And your year one pay is way less, but you are guaranteed in year two to bump up to a new rate. You also don't have very much in the way of pay stubs. And the way they do the pay at an airline job, you're an hourly worker. And it's a very strange thing because most people that are trying to get a job for a house that's $300,000 plus, they have a salary and they have something that is very straightforward. And it makes it really difficult to approach somebody that has no idea about what a professional pilot salary looks like to try to get that mortgage. And that's the problem I ran into. I probably haven't ever told you this, but I shopped around. Dude, I shopped you around.
I hope you do.
Good. Well, I did. And I went to 3 different people in the Atlanta area, and it was awful. It was so much.
The only thing I love that because it gives us credibility, but I hate that because at times people say, well, can you match Trident? And I'm like, well, why would you use our fee sheet that's really aggressively priced up in the beginning? But hey, it is America. And if somebody wants to use a local lender because they think that appraisals are coerced or something silly, that's fine. But usually they end up coming back to us and saying, well, I wish I'd have done that. All they did was match it. And then they come back to us for the refinances. But The big thing right now, Nick, is we're buying the second year home. And we can use future pay to the next pay raise. We can use the second year salary right now. So a lot of people that bought or are waiting, 2 months prior, we're going to use the upgrade pay. We're going to use the second year pay. And it's massive. It's double at UPS and certain airlines like Delta and American United. So that's the benefit for us. But particularly right now, we predicted that we'd refinance every loan we did last year, which we're doing. And I'm telling people not to refinance if they have to pay costs. And it's really novel. Most lenders are out there saying, pay $20,000 and get 4.75. Absolutely don't do it.
Yeah.
It's not fiscally responsible to do that. Now, we're the only company that'll tell you not to refinance, which is crazy. We're a mortgage company. But for me, I'm a financial partner for life. If you don't trust me, I'm not worth anything to you, then don't listen to me. It's your advice. If you want to pay all that money and refinance now, and in 8 months realize, I just wasted all that money. But our ethic is to be a financial partner, and that's how we treat our prior clients. I do a lot of refinances for free just because I try to help people out. And it doesn't take anything away from us. The IRRRLs are really easy. The refinances are easy. But the bottom line is that some people should not refinance now because they're not low enough in a rate, and it's going to cost some money. And it doesn't benefit them. The mortgage company benefits, of course, but I tell people, unless I can pay your closing costs, don't refinance now. Wait. And it's been a pretty good strategy.
What kind of spread should they look for? Like 1%, 1.5%?
No. If you conventionally, you can drop a quarter point as long as someone's paying your costs. What do you care? The whole point is you don't want to pay the title fees, VA funding fees, taxes, all that stuff. Now, the escrows and the interest is not part of the cost. That's part of your regular mortgage. So I approach people and say, hey, here's the rate where I'm paying the cost to refinance. And in a year, we'll do it again. And in 2 years, we'll do it again. The mistake people are making, I think, are all these lenders are out there throwing out these tremendously low rates. And they say things that you want to hear, like candy's free at the candy store. And, no out-of-pocket costs is the worst thing I can hear in the world. Or one lender says, oh, no points, but then they have a 1.5 origination. And we're just like, how can you do that to people? But again, they're in business to make money. They're in business to do mortgages. We kind of take a different approach as being a financial partner and trying to give them advice and say, hey, that's fine. Do what you want, but I don't think it makes any sense. And I think the last one I did for you, I covered your costs.
Yeah.
And now we're probably ready to do it again, but you didn't have any skin in the game to drop a certain amount. Otherwise, the general rule is 1%, but who knows if that's going to save you money?
Yeah. That's a really good point. And, I'm really thankful. We are good friends, and I was out visiting you. You and I did a function in Pensacola, Florida, which was fantastic. We went to the Trident Home Loans headquarters, which is a historic building in downtown Pensacola. It was stunning. And we got a bunch of like pizza and wings and beer, and we did a state of the industry, and we talked for a couple hours about what it's like. And we had it was shoulder to shoulder people in that room for 2 days straight. And that was a great opportunity. And while I was there, you and I we went to McGuire's for dinner, which is one of my favorite restaurants. And we sat down and we talked about what it would look like for me to refinance. And
that couple we were with just purchased a house, by the way, and we refinanced them.
I saw them this week.
Great guy.
They say hello. Yes, they are. We ran into some people that saw us and knew us there, and that listened to the show. It was so fun. It's absolutely probably my favorite part. But that's just it. I don't feel any threat. I don't feel pressured to do the thing. And also like you'll tell me like, dude, this is not the time. This is not it. Or, if you don't, here's what you're risking to lose if you don't do it now. So, and it's not a sales pitch. So that makes it good. And I appreciate that. Also, I've really enjoyed seeing your team at the conferences. That has been actually, look at this. So one of the things Ashley did, Ashley's my favorite, that.
Wonderful.
This is my book that I write in, and it says Tales from the Cockpit. And I saw this on.
She did it. She made them.
She said she was listening to the show and she heard me talk about the importance of having a notebook for people to write down their stories in as they were thinking about it. And this is the book, and she was giving these away at the convention, and it was so fun. And I have one, and I'm very honored. I even have a Trident Home Loans pen on here.
I love it. The thing is, Nick, I'm listening to this, and I'm listening to you, and the one thing that I get, and I hope people get, is that we love what we do. I love talking to people. I don't do the loans. I actually have my company of 100 employees does the work for me. And I just talk to people every day. I just talk to pilots. You and I can say who talks to more pilots today, you or me. I don't know. We can brag about that, but we love doing it. And the thing is, I love helping people, and so do you. And I really think, back a year ago, we became the first corporate sponsor of Spitfire and RTAG. We've been to many events, and all the OBAP and Pappy and Bobby Baker and Ashley went to all these events, including National Guard. I don't think people realize that Trident sponsors more entry events for pilots, I think, than any company in the United States. And I'm very proud of that. And it's a way to give back, but we also are being very rewarded for doing that. I can tell you that right now. Once we connect with somebody on a personal level and they realize that we help them, work through all these questions about how to transition, how to move, how to qualify, what not to do, how to do. And right now it's a change from a year ago. And I wanted to talk to you about that. And that's what I talked to the producer about. Things have changed so much in the airline industry where people are moving sideways, or they're realizing it's a different career, or they're taking a job at Atlas because they love the environment, or they love living in Miami, or they take a job with NetJets. And I'm doing a loan for them right now. And they're very popular with certain people. Certain people are actually choosing their career based on lifestyle in sometimes not as much as, well, if I go to Delta, I'll be on the bottom, or if I go to FedEx, I'll be moving backwards. And so they're really picking and choosing. And I think that, the helicopter guys are seeing career progression really well. And some of those guys are deciding, it's just not worth doing. I'll be a drone pilot, or I'll do this. So it's really nice to see the guys that are in their second year have moved up so fast that they're waiting for their hours to become a captain after they already got the upgrade. And that's kind of crazy, but whatever the choice is, realize that it is a choice, that you're a very good, solid, qualified professional. And the one thing I'll say, and I'll let you talk to it, but people that get airline jobs are really, really smart people. And whether you choose to, like I do, to have a business or to invest or to buy properties, one of the ways I made probably as much money in property as I have for flying. As you buy these houses right now, the values are going to skyrocket when rates drop and availability goes down. So we're in a unique case in the market where we're just at the beginning of the rate drops, and people that are buying are seeing or hoping to see tremendous appreciation. And then as you gain your career and you make more money, you might decide to sell that house or turn it into invest. I've already got people that are keeping houses now as rental properties when they bought their first year pay home. And right away, we're seeing investment opportunity, and I'm hearing investment opportunity. Well, a year ago, they weren't thinking investment opportunity. They were thinking, well, I just want to buy a house and live through my first year and have my 3 kids. Now the wife has a job working from home. He's got his second house. He's buying his second year pay house, and he's going to make that one a rental. So people are progressing nicely with real estate. And think of it as an investment when you're young. You think of it as your house, your forever house. Well, it very quickly turns into an investment, and now you're making money investing and selling and moving up, and other opportunities are coming available with your increase in pay.
Timothy P. Pope is a certified financial planner dedicated to guiding professional pilots through smart financial planning. Whether it's saving for retirement, investment management, a seamless military transition, or strategic tax planning, Tim is your trusted financial partner. Also, you can join Tim as he leads engaging discussions on personal finance and strategies for professional pilots on the brand new Pilot Money Podcast. Timothy P. Pope, helping professional pilots make the most out of life. Yeah, and you're right. You made a funny, interesting observation about the fact that people are working hard in that second year just to hit that 1,000 hours so they can upgrade. That window is not going to be open forever, but that window is currently open, and that's a wonderful opportunity. The idea of getting there based on what you want for a lifestyle choice is so good. And I love that idea. Like, yeah, some people aren't going to the airlines. Some people are choosing to do other things like RPA pilots and people that just kind of go and want to go to NetJets, want to go to 135, want to go to Part 91 organization, whatever it is. But that opportunity is still out there for you because everybody needs a place to live. And that's the idea, is to be able to find something that is fruitful for you. And sometimes it can be tricky because let's say you got hired, you pick your company. You got hired by American. You've been living in Norfolk, or you've been living in San Diego or Lemoore or Vegas or whatever, and you're moving and you're trying to get the lay of the land and try to make all these life decisions. And for those people transitioning out of the military, they have their first civilian job, and there's just so many things that you've got to think about and figure out. And yeah, it can kind of feel like a lot of pressure to try to pick the right house for you and your family when you haven't been there. That was certainly my experience moving to Atlanta.
Yeah, Atlanta's a growth society as well, and the opportunity there, everything goes up every year, and it just keeps on going up. But I think what's really interesting for us is that I get to look into people's lives on average of about 5 to 10 a day and seeing what they're doing, and it's surprising, the people at Atlas in Miami and the environment there with the chief pilot and what they do. They really love their lifestyle, and the pay seems to be pretty acceptable, but I think a lot of it is just they're just happy with the job. NetJets does the same thing. I know there's a corporate pilot in New Jersey for one of the major corporations. He loves that because he can live where he wants to, and his schedule is they treat him really well. There's another company, professional aviation. A lot of people are finding careers in some of these other areas, and the pay seems to be has increased quite a bit. But a lot of people are choosing the lifestyle and a niche carrier or a niche, type, private over something that's, a large major carrier. And then again, the major carriers are doing really well too, I think. My first choice, but I'll keep that quiet. I should be back to flying here in 2 months. I had a little bit of a disability. Oh, one thing I'm going to bring up, and I don't think many people realize this, is that we do a lot of 15-year fix to people, and I kind of caution them that if you do have a tree accident, a lawnmower accident, or your wife accidentally hits you in the head with a hammer trying to put in a nail, or you get a detached retina, which is fairly common from an eye injury or some reason. I had a detached retina and it put me down for about a year. I should get a special issuance here and fly again in a couple months and finish out my last 2 years. But it's been kind of a benefit that I haven't been flying because I have been able to focus on the change in the market. And I didn't realize, 3 of my clients actually told me about this, but there's a special issuance program. My buddy Don, he's getting that for his cancer issue right now, and other people are trying to get back to flying. But the FAA special issuance takes about 2 months. But the one thing I would recommend with everybody that's hearing this is get the get the ALPA loss of license insurance, which I didn't get. Get all the loss of license insurances. They're very cheap, but you never can count on, having the medical. And if you lose it, you don't want to be in a 15-year fixed. You want to be in a 30 that's got a lower payment, and if your lifestyle, can't stop for a year, you've not planned correctly. But, and it's fairly common at the age of 55 to have some sort of problem, whether it's, falling out of a tree, he got back to flying, or a blood clot. And that individual was 45 and he got back to flying. My eye has been a year and a half, and I'll probably get it. I qualify for the special issuance, and, thanks to my business and people telling me that I can do that. But no one really plans on a contingency if you do. And I do believe that had I known, I definitely would have gotten the Alpha loss of license insurance as well as DPMA. And then maybe done something to build a little bit of a nest egg for reserves. But, I'm lucky to have a business that's my primary focus and not have to really rely on the airline job as much. But I'm very fortunate in that aspect.
Man, that is such good wisdom. I think, I completely agree with you. There is a lot of risk in this profession, just with your health. And the older, which is, if you're 20 and you're listening to this, you're like, what? This is some bullshit. But I'm telling you, the FAA is not great about helping you out. Even if you're due a special issuance, it can take months for it to get through the process, because
2 to 3 months. I will say this, the management wasn't even aware of the program, which was astonishing to me. And I ended up finding out through 3 pilots at my airline that meant, hey, there's a guy that has a special issuance. I didn't even know about the program. And I went out on a medical, and it was about 9 months when I found out, hey, I qualify for this. And what's funny is the eye doctor didn't know, the chief pilots didn't know. Then I finally got to AMAS, and they're like, oh yeah, it's an easy program, and here's a page full of stuff you have to do. And I had to do every medical test under the sun, even though it wasn't applicable to me. They put you through, and it's great. I have insurance for it on disability, so I got all those tests done. And then I submitted it, and they said, oh, we need the trace recordings from your heart test. I'm like, why do I need that? So I got all these tests done, got them submitted, and now I'm sitting here waiting for 2 months to get my special issuance to go back. And, I pretty much moved on. And to me, I just don't want to retire on disability.
I know.
It's just personally not something I want to do. But that is a program. And if you don't know about the special issuance program, it qualifies you for, things like blood clots, things like heart problems. And it does take 2 to 3 months. You work with AMAS. I worked with a great doctor out in Denver that was very, immediately would call me back if I was missing something in the package and help me complete all the required forms and tests. And man, it is pretty massive. But once you get everything in, then you just sit there, and then you realize there's a 2-month pay for waiting for your medical that you can get back on and get off of disability. And so I qualify for the program. Once they pass the paperwork, I'll go back and do a test, get qualified again. And then I'll drop 3 of my 4 trips a month and do mortgages. But
I love the fact that you're captain of a major airline. You do a lot of awesome stuff, and you can talk the talk. And that is just that's the reality of why it's important to have these conversations with you, because I can imagine being your first officer and being a new hire and just like getting all the knowledge that you drop. But I do want to circle back to that point that you made, and I actually do this. I have a 30-year mortgage, and I have like my I have my mortgage cost, but I pay. I figured out what it's going to take for me to pay off my loan in less than 15 years, and I just did the math, and then I pay that much against my principal every single month. And if something happens, if there's some threat or whatever, I can turn that off, and I can just have that smaller nut to be paying off. And that is so like that is a little bit of financial freedom.
So yeah, that's a great strategy. And I talk about strategies all the time, as opposed to, well, here's the rate and here's the cost, and you get nothing out of that loan officer, that 22-year-old that sits there in front of a desk that's supposed to say what he's supposed to say. I'll look at it and say, well, just like you do a 30-year fixed, pay it off in 15, amortize it yourself. All these refinances we're doing right now, I tell them, well, I'm going to cover the title fees and all the costs that are not part of your mortgage, but you need to keep the same payment to self-amortize it so it doesn't get stretched out. And then the goal is to save money. In the way I do it, the goal is not to reduce the payment. Now, if somebody says, well, the goal is to reduce credit card debt or to reduce the payment, well, we change the goal. We do the loan differently. So we ask them, hey, here's 4 ways you can deal with this refinance. Do you want a lower payment? Do you want, lowest rate? Do you want to have a strategy of a no cost refinance now, essentially, and then in a year we'll do it again, and in 2 years we'll do it again? Are you going to turn this into an investment property? Well, you don't want to do a 15, you want to cash flow it. So it's all those things over 23 years of doing, thousands of loans, and it's nice having that background to be able to tell people and advise them. I only give them information, let them make the decision. And a lot of times the decision's not what they would have made initially, but it's education, right? And the same thing that you do with them and getting hired, we support all that, through our attending those events and sponsoring them. You do it based on experience, and I do the same thing with mortgages and finances and building houses and investing in real estate. Same thing.
I'm often surprised whenever I go to a pilot hiring convention. There's usually hundreds of people that come to talk, and which is like my favorite part. It's wild to hear the amount of people that mention Trident. It's just wild. And that it's a good thing, because we're all kind of moving the same direction. And the idea that you're right about how you give, like, hey, look, here's 4 or 5 strategies that you could possibly do. Sit down, get your spreadsheet, get your calculator, sort out what works best, and have that conversation with your spouse. Once you do, let me know. We'll pull the trigger. And each person should be deliberate about how they choose to make the biggest purchase of their entire life. And that's because it's a scary thing. Especially if it's your first, like, that is a big, scary thing. So
I had a great conversation with someone, and he was buying a house in Denver for $800,000, and it was his first house. And he's like, wow, this is really a big step. It seems like it's too much. And I'm like, well, okay, you're looking at it the wrong way. You're looking at it like it's not an investment. Mm-hmm. And once you look at it like an investment, then it all of a sudden becomes a moneymaker, and you look at the house differently. You don't buy the most expensive house in the most expensive neighborhood. Well, of course, if you did that on Pensacola Beach, you'd make a fortune. But it really, right now, nicer houses are hard to find, but houses you can put sweat equity into. But if you look at the metrics, and it's really simple. Time the house is on the market, the average price increase or decrease, and the number of houses that are being sold, it'll show you the trend of where things are going. We know the market's exploding right now because there's availability, and the rates went down. So people are not waiting a week to buy. Like, they're pre-approving and going under contract within 3 days. Wow. And so we like that because there's availability, which we didn't have a year ago. Some markets still have a lot of availability, and that's the time when rates are not as low as they're going to go, and there's availability. That's the time to buy, because then you gain equity as rates drop and as availability goes down. So with the election coming up, we were hoping to see that also help push rates lower and less money in the system. The trend is lower rates. They just started to drop them. They went up a little bit this last 2 weeks, but as the economy moves along and inflation gets under control, rates will come down and down and down. And all of a sudden, the housing market will get back to 10 to 12%. And that's 10 to 12% of what you bought. So that could be like $80,000 a year for that $800,000 house. And that's what we saw. Every year we saw 10 to 11% gain. And it's just really hard to build a house right now. It's expensive. Like it's twice as expensive. And so anything existing is going to come back to that simple. And also rents are up. So I look at it and I'll tell people, well, think of it as in terms of an investment about which you can gain. And then we also look at putting money into a mortgage instead of stocks. If you amortize it over 15 years, you're going to get a 14% rate of return on your money. And the stockbrokers are like, well, I don't understand. I'm like, well, we'll just do the math. Mm-hmm. It's mathematical. It's not like a guess. It's if you pay a mortgage off in 15 years, you're going to save 2/3 of the interest. And that is a 14% rate of return on your money. So you can put it in stocks, but if you put it in your mortgage, it's guaranteed 14% rate of return. And I used to sit there on the ER flying across the Atlantic and actually do this manually. And it was kind of shocking because you can see it's not investing in your mortgage is actually a great way to save money, but you have to make the money to do that as well. And I think that the goal is to have a mortgage paid off by the time you're 55 and then save money for the last 10 years. And, but you can't count on flying until you're 65. You have to kind of plan on flying until you're 60. And if you do that, you can get the mortgage paid off, then you're not sitting in that seat and you have some freedom to invest and spend money in other places, and save.
And you also have way less stress. That is for sure.
Yeah. And then if you get divorced, then you can split the equity with the wife. And of course, that's half of us, which no one really wants to plan on. Or you got kids in college, which you have a few coming up. And so you want to start putting some money away for the college savings programs, and that's a good strategy too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Hey, pilot. Does your pilot uniform make a short flight feel like a transcon slog? Flight uniforms have reinvented aviation shirts with 3D stretch, stain repellents, and no wrinkles. These shirts are just plain comfortable and ready for takeoff right out of your rollerboard. Flight Uniform is trusted by more than 25,000 pilots, and their flagship flight shirt has over 1,500 five-star reviews. I've worn every pilot shirt out there, and if you know me, you know I only wear flight uniforms. Be the envy of every cockpit at flightuniform.com and get a special podcast exclusive discount with the code SpitfirePod20 to take 20% off your first order at flightuniform.com.
So when I lose my medical, I'll be opening the Trident Atlanta chapter.
That's right. Well, I got lucky. My daughter got an academic scholarship and went to Auburn. My son went to Mississippi State and they offer a veterans kind of like a GI, it's like a bill, but it's in-state tuition in Mississippi at an SEC school. And I wasn't aware of it, but that's a great way. It's just you find these programs, whether it's through the state's program where you can pay less, or an out-of-state program where you're a veteran and you can get them to an SEC school and qualify for in-state, which is very inexpensive and having a great education as well. So find the way to get the benefit from whatever you can, and or start saving now and put it into a college savings plan. But again, I do mortgages, but we do a lot more to try to find ways where it's a better financial strategy to life.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It's all about sharing that knowledge, and it's not just about mortgages, right? Because there's a complexity to life. There's all these different storylines that we get to put together. Some of them are wonderful and some of them are terrible, but you don't get to pick which ones you get, but you should plan for the greatest success that you can.
I'll give you one quick example, and then I'll let you move on. But I had a borrower call, and he bought his first house, his first year pay. It's in North South Carolina, $400,000, and he wants to buy a nicer house to upgrade because he has 3 kids. And so I said, well, you can use your VA loan twice, and he doesn't have to put down any extra money. He can do a second VA loan. And then he goes, well, I'm not going to have enough pay with that first house. I go, yeah, you do, because we can use the rent off of the market rents. And so Now he realizes he doesn't have to sell it. He really does want to rent it, and he needs to move up because he's got 3 kids. So now he's got a rental. He can do a second VA loan at a rate that's a point below where he bought the other one. I can refinance the other one under a VA IRRRL program, even though it's investment. So we can drop the rate and drop the payment. He can use the rental income without it being rented. Now he buys a second house. And that's just one example of how you can empower somebody with knowing what they can do when they already have one house trying to buy a second house because they have 3 kids. Now you have how many, Nick?
Last I counted, it was 5.
5. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Well, I have 2, and the joke is that I know of, but I only have 2, and I'm very happy that I do, and they're doing very well. And I wish your children as well. I know they're going to be a great resource to you when they start going to school and the focus of your life as you move up. Hey, and the great thing is, one thing I talk about is when guys used to choose different airlines, whether it's cargo or majors. My kids have traveled the world, and so I say, well, if you have children, you might want to think about American Delta or United, or if you don't, then you might want to think about where you want to live instead, But
yeah, that's a really good point. And that's just it. And also, the bigger your family, the harder it is to non-rev and to go out there and see that world. So the planes are usually full. So the wintertime is our opportunity to go somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Man,
absolutely.
Marty, I really, really appreciate you spending time talking to the pilots today. Trident Home Loans is the website, and I'm just thankful for you. I don't know, any last save rounds before we say goodbye?
No, everybody can text me on my cell at 850-346-0250. And of course, TridentHomeLoans.com, not Trident Mortgage, but Trident Home Loans. And, but I prefer people to just text me or reach out to me directly, and then we can push them in the right direction and help them out.
All right. I will put that cell phone number in the show notes as well. That is literally his phone number. And I know because everybody, that's just kind of how we do. We just toss the cell phone over. Marty will chat with you and then get you over to the team to help make it happen. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate you spending time. I hope that I know you're in Miami, so I hope that storm passes you nice and easy, and that it's a great day for you.
Yeah, we're on the good side this time, but I appreciate it, Nick. Thanks for your words, and good luck to you and your children. I always hear great things when people call me, and I always love the referrals, because if I know I'm coming from Nick, then I know that they're going to be well prepared, and they're going to at least trust me to tell them what I will. I always appreciate that.
All right, pilots, that's a wrap on this episode, and I know what you're thinking. You need to make yourself a little bit better. So how do you make yourself a little bit better? You tighten up your resume. So here's what I want you to do. Go over to my website, spitfireelite.com/podcast, and you can download my free resume template. It is tight, organized, and it's the perfect pilot resume. It's just something I like to do for the pilot group, and it is free to you. So go over there, spitfireelite.com/podcast, and download your free resume template. While you're over there, look at all the services that we offer. Lots of great interview prep, lots of great application review. Everything you need to be a professional pilot is right there. spitfireelite.com/podcast. Thanks, and I'll see you on the next episode.